Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight for our Making the Most of US College Day webinar. My name is Basha. I'm one of the advisors here at UK Fulbright Commission. Today, I'll be going over choosing funding applying to the US, also tips for making the most of our US College Day event. And I will also take questions at the end, which you will be able to enter into the Q&A box. Just so you are aware, this webinar is being recorded and it will be available on our website next week. So before we get started, we would just like to give you information about our event sponsor, JetBlue. JetBlue is New York's hometown airline, offering great value fares, free Wi-Fi, and excellent customer service, and has been the airline supporter of Fulbright scholars for the last 2 years. They offer 20% discounts on airfares for students and teachers, and they operate 5 daily flights from London, Gatwick, and Heathrow to New York and Boston, and onwards to 100 destinations across Americas. You will be able to meet a JetBlue crew during the college day in September, and make sure that you scan your QR code to get an access to an exclusive 20% discount on your flights. So who are we? The US-UK Fulbright Commission is a not-for-profit organization that's jointly funded by the US and the UK government to promote peace and cultural understanding throughout educational exchange. And we do this by offering scholarships for postgraduate study and research in the US and the UK, and offering an advisory service to assist students, parents, and advisors with applying for US universities. Now, this advisory service is part of the Education USA Network, which is a US Department of State network of over 400 international student advising centers throughout the world. And our aim as Education USA advisors is to offer free and unbiased advice to help UK students study in the US. We are also the only official source of US study in the UK. So, why study in the US? What's so great about it? The first thing is the reputation and variety of US universities. So there are actually over 4,500 US universities that offer undergraduate degrees. Now that's compared to about 120 that we have here in the UK. And within that 4,500 universities, there is a huge range of different personality and styles of each university. Universities in the US are known for their great reputation. They have a full range of programs on offer for students, and they also produce some of the most groundbreaking research in the world. Now, when looking at universities in the US, we'd advise that you focus on fit, so how you would fit in that university, as this will actually allow you to find many high-quality universities that you may have never heard of. There are lots of opportunities to experience campus life and activities. US universities are known for having a very vibrant campus life, and they encourage their students to be involved outside of the classroom as well. So there's different extracurricular involvements in the US, such as music, a cappella, dance, sports. There's even a log rolling club at University of Wisconsin. And many universities, such as Michigan State University, they have over 1,000 student organizations that give you a chance to experience some of that extracurricular activities and lifestyles. Studying in the US also gives you an academic flexibility, which is a top attraction for UK students. US universities follow this educational idea of the liberal arts curriculum, which look at a very well-rounded education. They give you the flexibility to explore interest before selecting a major. And they also have an emphasis on teaching and a very engaging classroom environment. In the US, you're allowed to take a combination of different study topics. So you could take classes in engineering and art, or urban education and American music, or various different topics as well. So this allows for academic flexibility, which we don't actually get here in the UK, as the course that you take is set from the start. So you don't have that flexibility here. There's also a lot of funding opportunities in the US, which might surprise some of you, but this is another top reason for studying there. I will discuss this later on, but keep in mind that there are various opportunities to find different scholarships in the US as compared to the loan-based program here in the UK. Studying in the US also gives you an opportunity to internationalize your CV. Studying abroad is very appealing to employers nowadays, as it shows boldness to do something different. It shows that you have different interpersonal skills and that you also have experience in cross-cultural communication. It also allows you to build networks of friends and professional contacts around the world. And many students actually get opportunities to take on work while they're there. So as a student, you can work up to 20 hours a week during term time on campus and up to 40 hours a week during holidays. You also get a chance to work up to a year after graduating, and that year can be done anywhere in the US. It doesn't have to be on campus at your university. And you also get a chance to learn about a new culture. So the US spans across 6 different time zones and has a great diversity in geography and its culture as well. You actually get very long summer holidays to explore the US, and living on campus will help you get to know the US culture personally, you know, from the students that you're around to the different state that you're in as well. So what are the key differences between the US and the UK? Well, typically, the program is longer in the US. So a bachelor's degree is 4 years in the US, as opposed to the 3 years here in the UK. The admission is to the university as a whole and not a particular academic department. And this reflects the liberal arts system that they have. So you might not have to choose a major until later in your studies, as compared to the very course-specific degree here in the UK, where you have to apply for a specific course and do that course from the first year that you go to university. There's a lot less government control in the US, which makes which allows institutions to be more diverse and give them a lot more freedom. But what that also means is that there are no set fees and there's no centralized admission process like here with UCAS. The application process is also different. It's slightly longer and more in-depth. And that's because the admission process in the US is much more holistic, and they look at much more than just the grades, but I will discuss this more in depth later on. You also apply for funding alongside your application for admissions in the US. And there are a few exceptions. So law and medicine are studied at the postgraduate level in the US. So if you want to study law and medicine in undergraduate, that's not possible to do in the US. It's only done in the postgraduate level. So what is the timeline for applying to a US university? We recommend that you actually begin to research universities about 1 to 1.5 years before you enroll. So that's typically at the end of year 12 or beginning of your year 13, basically from the summer to about now, this time of year. We then suggest that you register for any required admissions exams and aim to take those in the summer after year 12. Keep in mind that a lot of universities do not require you to take any admission exams, just so you're aware. You will then finalize a selection of where you will be applying in the early autumn of year 13, or about 10 to 12 months before you plan to enroll. And we will go over strategies of how to do this as well. Now, about 8 to 10 months, so the autumn of year 13, you will be putting together an application and submit them according to the deadlines. Now, as I mentioned before, different universities will have different deadlines for when their applications are due. Now, the spring of year 13, or around 4 to 7 months before you enroll, you could actually expect to hear back from the universities you apply to with their admissions decisions. And based off of where you were accepted, you will notify universities of your decision, and then you will apply for a visa about 1 to 3 months before you enroll. There are many different resources available on our website that will help you with your pre-departure, including things like travel advice, living arrangement, information about campus life in the US, and other information that will help you with this. And you will typically start at university around mid-August to early September, which is slightly earlier than here in the UK, where you start usually the third week in September, or sometimes even the last week in September. So you will start university slightly earlier than here in the UK. Okay, so how do you go about choosing a university? This is actually a very important step in the process of applying to US universities, and it's important to think through the step. The key is also to be flexible. Now, as I mentioned, there are over 4,500 universities in the US, which means it could be a daunting process to actually narrow down your prospects. But I will discuss some strategies that you could implement in the choosing process to make it a bit easier. So the first step in the choosing process is to locate what factors are important to you. Now, we focus a lot on the term fit and on finding what school and program is going to be the best fit for you and your personal and academic interests. So there are many factors to consider, both in and out of the classroom, when you're looking at this fit and what's important to you. For example, you might want to look at the types of programs and the departments that the university has on offer, maybe the location and availability of funding that's on offer for you. You know, maybe something like campus size is important to you. Do you want to go to a small university where the campus is quite small? Or do you want to go to very lively universities where there are a lot of students around and the campus is very big? What kind of academic environment do you want to be in? Do you want to be somewhere where it's very rigorous, or maybe it's very competitive, or maybe you're looking for a university that's very inclusive and supportive of international students, or is supportive of students that have other needs? So begin thinking about what factors are important to you more broadly, and try to prioritize these. You know, do you want to be somewhere where it's always hot? You might not want to go to a university that is in the east, as they get lots of snow and cold winters. Are you trying to save money? Maybe living in an urban place, living in an urban place will be more expensive than a rural place. You know, what are those factors that are important to you? Is it the campus size? Is it the type of course that they have? It might be the weather, you know, it might be the money. And list those from most important to least important, or ones that definitely have to be part of the university, and ones that maybe if the university doesn't meet those factors, you could live without it. And we encourage you at this point to actually think about to think beyond the rankings, but look at the variety of factors that you have. Rankings in the US are not the same as in the UK. some rankings don't rate the quality of teaching. Some give weight to how much money a university has, and some rankings are done by other universities where the universities peer rank themselves. So it's not like here in the UK where the rankings, there's a system and it's done by a completely separate governing body. Rankings can be a useful tool, but it shouldn't be the only method you use to choose a university. Now, within the choosing process, make sure that you're only applying to universities that you have researched and that you can see yourself attending for up to 4 years if offered a place. You don't want to apply to a university that, you might have heard the name of it, but you actually don't know anything about it. You might end up going there and actually hating it for 4 years and spending a lot of money and time and just, not enjoying it. Okay, so now that you decided what factors are important to you, the next step is to use that information and to actually begin researching the universities. So unlike UCAS, you are not limited to 5 universities. So in theory, you could actually apply to as many universities as you'd like. Now, for time and financial reasons, we actually recommend that you apply to 6 to 10 universities. And to start this process of choosing, you want to focus on narrowing down those 4,500 institutions to a list of about 10 to 20 schools that you think would be a good fit for you. Now, you might sit there and be like, how do I do this? Well, we actually have a lot of resources on our choosing section of our undergraduate guide on our website. And it includes a list of links to search engines that help with this process of narrowing down your choices of universities. So you're able to apply different factors such as what majors they offer, even what state they are in, what financial package they offer to international students. You can narrow it down by campus size. So you could pick, just small universities or medium-sized universities or large universities. There's a variety of different factors that you could apply. And the search engine will narrow down your options from the 4,500 to a more reasonable number that you could then go ahead and research. So once you narrow down your options, you should research them further on the university website. And you can even reach out to each university directly. So the goal is to select about 6 to 10 institutions where you will actually submit your application. Now, we suggest that you apply to 2 Reach schools where you will be thrilled to attend, but it would be a challenge for you to get in. Now, keep in mind, if you're applying to ultra-competitive universities such as, your Yale, Stanford, MIT, or Caltech or similar, these are Reach schools for everyone that applies to them. We suggest that you apply to between 3 to 4 match schools where your profile is roughly on par with their average applicant. And each university will list the average profile of their student on their website. So you could kind of see and compare what your profile looks like to their average student. And we recommend that you apply to 2 likely admittance schools. So think of it as your UCAS insurance choice, where your application will be very competitive. Now, the best place to find the most up-to-date information about universities is each university website. So have a look on their website to see the profile of the average applicant that they admit. You could also find more information on the programs that they have on offer. A lot of them have virtual campus tours on their website. You could find out information about what the student life looks like, what kind of sports they have on offer, what kind of extracurricular clubs they have on offer, what the student housing looks like. the financial aid that they offer for international students. And there's different information about each university on their own website. Please make sure that you check out what resources are available for international students. This will vary university to university. Universities that have a lot of international students tend to have more resources available. That's not always the case, but we encourage you that you check out what resources they have. And this is also available on their websites as well. We also suggest that you check out each university's social media channels. So things like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, etc. As this could give you a feel for what the university is like. You might get a feel what the personality of the university is, what they focus on. You might have some testimonials from students, or like day in the life of a student at a certain university. So make sure you check out the social media channels as well. And keep in mind that US universities want to hear from you. So reach out to them, email them, but ensure that it's you, the student, calling or emailing, as this shows the admission officer that you are interested in studying at their university. And a lot of universities have like little chats that you could book in with admission officers, or you could just straight up email them, or even book like a one-on-one Zoom appointment with them as well. So make sure you do reach out to the universities that you are particularly interested in applying to. Okay, so now you've chosen your universities. Let's talk about funding. So funding is one of the top things we get asked about here at Fulbright. And in this section, I'm going to run through the different sources of funding that you could pull from and the strategies that can be implemented to find funding as well. So where does this money come from? Well, I will go more into details for each of these sources, but it's good to know that there are typically 4 different sources of funding for US study. The first is personal or family funds. So US universities expect families to actually prioritize students' education and invest in that education. A lot of families in the US, they start saving for universities when the children are very young, because this is something that is expected of families to do. They will put some kind of funds towards the US university education. The second source of funding are US universities themselves. And there's 2 types of funding: need-based aid and merit-based scholarships, which I'll explain on the next slide. Now, this type of funding is going to vary between universities. So if financial aid is important to you, you will need to look for and apply only to universities that offer financial aid for international students. And make sure that you check that it's for international students as well, because there are many universities that will offer financial aid to home students, but not to international students. The third source of funding are external funding bodies, which I will talk about later. And there's also loans. Now, we advise that loans be your final resort, as you cannot take UK student loans to the US, and the US-based loan system requires you to have a US citizen or permanent resident to co-sign the loan. Now, you are able to take a UK third-party loan, but we actually caution you to be careful around the very high interest rates and the payback terms. Sometimes it means that you have to pay back the loan straight away, even before you finish university. And if you have US citizenship or you're a dual national, you could take out a loan and apply to federal loans by completing a FAFSA form. Now, it might be that you have to pull from a combination of these different resources to fund your education, but it is possible. So university funding. University funding is ideal since it doesn't actually have to be paid back. And there are two types of university funding. Now, as I mentioned, this is going to vary university from university. So university funding is likely to be awarded on the basis of financial need. So this will be based on your family's annual income, or it will be awarded on academic merit, which will be based on your A-level marks, your GCSEs, and possibly your admission test scores. Or it might be some niche criteria that the university has, or a combination of the above. Now, there are different types of aid that is available from university funding. So there's need-based aid, which is based on financial need. And universities calculate this by looking at what your family can contribute to your education, and they compare that to the total cost of attendance. And then they try to meet that gap. So, for example, if a university tuition is $50,000 and the university sees that your family, based on their income and financial situation, can contribute $5,000, they will look at that difference. So they would look at the $45,000 that's left over and give you the aid based on that. Now, the amount of how much they're going to give you to fill that gap is going to vary from university to university. So some universities will meet 100% of that gap, which means they will give you the other $45,000. Some might give you 80% of it. Some might give you 50% of it. All this information is available on each university's website. They'll give you the information of how much gap they would cover or how much financial aid they could offer for international students. Now, as you investigate funding for universities, make sure you check for information if that university makes scholarships available to international students as well, as not all universities do. Also, if you are a top athlete, sports scholarships may also be available through athletic recruitment process. And we have information on our website about what the athletic recruitment process looks like in the US. We have a few webinars about it and links to some really good websites that could give you more information about that as well. Now, for more information on university funding, the best place to check is the university website itself. Be proactive to find the information that you need. Keep in mind that often the process for applying for financial aid or scholarships in the US is very straightforward, and it's sometimes even integrated into the admissions application process as well. So make sure you research that when you're doing your research on each university. So I also mentioned external funding bodies. So funding bodies may include a wide range of professional, charitable, or government organizations that are completely external to the university. Now, these could be thought of as niche scholarships, as they usually have specific criteria based on the mission of the funding body that you have to meet. For example, they might give scholarships if you come from a particular country of origin, or if you're of a particular ethnicity group, or you might have an interest in a particular field, or you might have a special talent. For example, you might be a woman who's interested in engineering, and if you look at external funding bodies, you might find different organizations that might offer scholarships for women that want to study engineering. Now, if you are unique in any sort of way, there is likely a funding body with a scholarship out there for you. You just have to find it. So an example is the Morehead Cain Foundation. They give out scholarships for leadership, character, and physical vigor, and they provide a 4-year, fully funded educational experience for students of the highest caliber at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. So this is an external funding body that actually gives a 4-year fully funded scholarship to students that meet certain criteria. There are thousands of funding bodies out there that give out scholarships, so searching will actually require some time and dedication to sift through all the scholarship that are available and to submit separate applications to each body. So for this reason, we actually encourage students to first apply to university funding opportunities, and then if needed to apply or look for the external funding that's out there. Now, we also have a link on our website to scholarship search engines as well. And once again, you could use those by applying different filters and it will filter through different scholarships available based on those filters. So let's talk about some funding strategies. There are 3 different approaches to funding strategy that we suggest. So the first one is that you could explore universities in places with a lower cost of living. So same as in the UK, London will be more expensive than Lancaster. Just like in the US, living in New York or California is going to be way more expensive than living in states like Ohio or Georgia or Michigan. American universities will actually list on their website the full estimated cost of attendance. And that includes things like tuition, extra fees that you might need to pay, personal expenses that you might have. And they will also list the cost of living if you go to that particular university. So you could scope out places with lower cost of living from the start. Another strategy is to actually look for programs with lower tuition costs. As I mentioned before, there is no governing body telling US universities how much they can charge each student for tuition. So the tuition fees will vary drastically between different universities. And the third strategy is to look at the different funding opportunities that are out there. So look at university funding, look at their financial aid, their scholarships that they have on offer, and then have a look at those external scholarships if you think you need to make up the difference somewhere else. Another strategy to lower your cost is to actually look at community colleges. So community colleges are increasingly popular choice in the US as an alternative pathway that could help save a lot of money. Now, they generally award what's called an associate degree, and this isn't a degree that's offered here in the UK, but it's a degree that often has a professional or a vocational focus. They also have programs that allow students to do what's called a 2+2 transfer pathway. So what that means is that you will start your studies at a community college where you will do 2 years. You will then receive your associate's degree and then transfer to a 4-year university to do another 2 years, where you will receive a bachelor's degree from that 4-year institution. And many community colleges have transfer agreements with 4-year universities. So for example, Los Angeles Valley College is a 2-year community college, but it has a partnership with universities like UCLA, University of Southern California, and Cal Poly. And sometimes students that go to LA Valley College actually get to take classes in those first 2 years at the 4-year institutions as well. Also, if you go to a community college, after the 2 years, you actually are allowed to work for 1 year before you transfer to a 4-year university. And then when you get your bachelor's degree, you're allowed to work for another year. So you could actually work in the US for 2 years as opposed to for just 1 if you go to a community college as well. The community colleges are much less expensive than 4-year universities, and they could help you save thousands of dollars by paying the significantly lower tuition cost of a community college for the first 2 years of the 4 years that you would go there for. They also have smaller class sizes, which could be very valuable for your introductory classes, and you get more contact with professors as well. Now, generally, they involve a less rigorous application process, and the entry requirements are lower than to a 4-year university. So students with a BTech or OCR or other similar qualifications can actually apply to community colleges. Many community colleges do not require any additional exam scores either for admission. And we have more information on our website about community colleges, as well as a community college webinar that you could check out. So what does the application process look like in the US? It's completely different than in the UK. What they look for are, first of all, your academic achievements, which are measured by your results, so your GCSEs and your A-levels or equivalent. And sometimes they will look at those admission test scores if applicable. So as I mentioned before, not all universities will require any admission test scores, but some do. And as I mentioned before, you can check out university websites for what the average applicant profile looks like as well. Keep in mind that academic achievement alone will not guarantee you entrance to a competitive US university, as their application process is much more holistic than here in the UK. So the first thing they look for is your academic fit. And that is the reasons for pursuing a degree at their institutions. So why do you want to go there and not a different university? And how is it going to help towards your goals by going to their university? So for example, you want to live in New York, but why did you choose New York University and over Columbia? Does NYU have a particular program that Columbia doesn't have? Or does NYU have a particular campus activity or a mission that Columbia doesn't have? US institutions want to know why you chose to apply to their institution and not one that might be, close by. They also look at extracurriculars, which is a big focus in the US. They want to find out what you do outside of the classroom environment. Now, you don't have to do everything under the sun, but it's important that you highlight what you are involved in outside of your school curriculum. Is there a club that you're a part of outside of your school, or even after school? Maybe you started a club at your school that didn't exist before you got there. Maybe you volunteer at the local community center, or maybe you actually just have a part-time job that you do after school. Those are very important things to list on the application for US universities. They also look at your personal attributes. So as I mentioned, it's a holistic admission process, and US universities always look to diversify their campus and their classrooms. And they want to know who you are. They want to learn about you from your application. So they want to find out what your interest in your academic field of choices. Why did you choose that field? Or maybe you don't know what you want to do and you haven't chosen that. They want to know why. They want to know about your character and if you have any special abilities. Maybe you're a great leader in school or outside of school. They just want to find out who you are as a person. Now, unlike the UK, you actually apply to each university individually rather than a centralized body like UCAS. And as I mentioned before, you could apply to as many universities as possible. But because of time and cost constraints, we kind of recommend that you apply to 6 to 10 schools. Now, US universities use something called the Common Application, and around 900 universities use this. And it's just a system that helps streamline the demographic aspect of the application. So this isn't like UCAS in that you will still have to tailor all of your applications to each university. And each university will have different questions asked that they ask of you, and they might even have supplementary questions that you have to answer. But the demographic part of the application will be shared with all the universities, so you don't have to make any changes of that. You just have to do it once. Now, there's no standard process for applications in the US or deadlines or requirements. So this will vary by university, and each university will list those requirements and their deadlines on their website. They will also set their own deadlines, which I just mentioned. So it's important that when you're doing that research, you kind of make a note of when the applications are due, as they won't all be on the same date like here in the UK. Most applications will actually follow a very similar format. So you might be able to reuse or adapt parts of the materials that you prepare for each university. Most will include things like the application form with basic demographics, admission test scores if applicable, a transcript, essays, 2 to 3 letters of recommendation, and finally, you will have to pay an application fee, which is between $50 and $100 per application. Okay, so making the most of college day. How do you get prepared? We recommend that you actually research schools that will be at US College Day using our list. And you can find that on our website under the College Day event page. There's a link to all the schools that are attending. Make sure that you visit the university websites and take notes to show that you have done your research. Look for things like the available majors that they have, what kind of campus setting they have, maybe what types of funding they offer for international students, and other details that are important to you on each university's website or their social media platform. So this is kind of where those factors come in play. Have a look if the universities match those factors and make a note of them. Look out for a range of universities in the event program. This is also now posted on our website as well, and you could see what universities are there. There's a little profile of what the university is about, and you might find that, you will find that the well-known universities will be amongst the most competitive, and they usually have an acceptance rate of less than 10%. And you will find in our program that there is a great variety of excellent universities at College Day, and some that you might not have heard of that could be a perfect fit for you. So don't get hung up on just 1 or 2 universities because you know their name and you've heard of them before. Now, on the day, we recommend that you arrive around 30 minutes before your time slot, and you will wait outside the venue to enter. Now, this time can be used to read through the program, the event program again, and kind of plan your time at the fair. You will receive a physical program once you're there in the queue. Make sure that you prepare some good questions for the universities. The staff that's representing each institution, they kind of take notes of students who have done their research and come and talk to them and ask relevant questions about their institutions or just studying in the US in general, as it shows to them that you have demonstrated an interest in actually going to their university. And a lot of the staff members that are representing universities are international admission counselors, and they will read your application if you apply to their university. So it's important that you actually, go and say hi if there's a university that you really want to go to, as they will read your application. Now, there will be space in your physical program that you receive to actually make notes, and you will also be able to scan each university's QR code and get their contact details after the event as well. Now, at the fair, as I mentioned, make sure you speak to the reps. Practice your introduction and prepare some essential questions that we have in our tips for choosing a university section on our website. Be sure that you introduce yourself and mention who you are and when you actually plan to enroll. And maybe if you know what majors you are interested in studying and why you want to go to their university. Make sure you take advantage of this unique time as a student that you have to make a connection with an admissions or the university staff. And as I mentioned, a lot of these staff members will actually read your application. And make sure that you lead your conversation. So if you come to college day with your parents, make sure it's you that leads the conversation and not your parents. The staff there want to learn about you. Your parents are not going to go to the university. It's you that's going to go there. They want to make sure that they know who you are and why you want to go there. And we will also have an advice team and advisors at the event that could answer any of your questions that you might have about studying in the US or about any of the processes that go whether it's choosing or funding or actually applying there. And we will also have various seminars throughout the day that you could join for free whilst you're there. These are run by the different US university staff members. And our one tip is to make sure that you visit universities that you might not have considered before or have heard of before, as they might actually surprise you and they might even match with what your fit is and what your non-negotiables are. And you never know, they might actually have better financial packages for international students than some of the other universities you might already know. Now, after the event, it's important that you follow up with universities that you spoke to, and you could contact them through email and show them that you're still interested in applying there. And as I mentioned before, once you scan their QR code, you will get the information of how to contact them as well. So what are some of the other ways that we can help? Well, you could visit our website for advice and guides and events that we have throughout the year. Undergoing to the US, you will actually find undergraduate guide with details on choosing, funding, and applying to the US. We also run the Sutton Trust US program, and this is in partnership with the social mobility program in the UK called the Sutton Trust. This is for high achieving year 12 students from low income families. You get a chance to visit US universities in the first year of the program. And in the second year of the program, we support you to apply for undergraduate study in the USA. And the program is free for students that are accepted on the program. I believe the application for this year's program will open in November, so keep an eye out on our website. We will also have some information about the program at the college day itself, and there's information on our website as well about the program. We also take questions by email. So our email is advising@fulbright.org.uk. That's Fulbright with one L. So that's advising@fulbright.org.uk. You could email us with any questions that you might have, and you could email us as many times as you like throughout the process of applying to the US. We also do one-on-one video appointments with an advisor. These are through Zoom. You could find the link on how to book it on our website. Just keep in mind that because the College Day event is coming up next week, we currently don't have any video appointments available, but these will be available from October on. And we do various events online and in person, such as our US College Day next week. We also have various webinars throughout the year. We have a webinar about STEM undergraduate studies in the US coming up at the beginning of October. And we also have a community college 2+2 pathway webinar coming up in October as well. We have various webinars throughout the year, and you can find that on our event page. Okay, that's it from me. I'm gonna see what questions everyone has. If you have a question, please pop it into the Q&A box, and I'll try to answer as many questions as possible. So the first question is, how many early decision universities can you apply for? So it depends what kind of early decision it is. There's two types. One is a binding one, which means you could only apply to that one university, and if you get accepted to that university, you will have to go there. You sign a contract with them when you apply. If it's a non-binding early decision, you're allowed to apply to that university. However, you don't sign a contract. So if you don't get into that university, you could apply to other universities during the normal application process. So the answer is one, but make sure that you see if it's a binding one or non-binding one. So there's a question, how can you find the 2+2 schools that offer this program? Where are they located? So what you want to do is on the search engine that we have on our website, what you would pick is community colleges, or I think it's 2-year, the filter is 2-year institutions, I believe, or it might be community colleges. And that will give you a list of all the 2-year community colleges that exist in the US. I would say all US community colleges allow you to transfer to a 4-year institution. The bigger ones will most likely have a link with 4-year institutions. You will have to find that information on each community college's website. We do have a webinar coming up with a 2-year community colleges from California, and they will actually talk about what kind of programs that they have on offer, and you could register for that on our website as well. But check out our website. There's an older webinar that kind of goes more into details about this. Okay, there's a question about how much funding do international students get for universities like MIT? Because they need blind admission, but how much do they get if you're not rich? Very good question. First of all, MIT is very selective in their application process. They accept something like 1% of their applicants. And from my knowledge, they do not offer funding to international students, but you might find other information on their website. So what I would suggest is to actually look at MIT's website. How can we access the recording of the webinar today? The webinar will be put on our website early next week, and I will also send you guys a link to it once it's live on the website as well. So there's a question, how do you find out if your course requires taking the SAT or the ACT? So this isn't up to the course, it's actually up to the university. Each university under their admission requirements will list if you have to take the SAT or ACT. Most universities allow either or. If the university is what's called test optional, it means that you do not have to submit the SAT or ACT scores. It's completely up to you. You can take them, you don't have to if they're test optional. If they require you to take them, if they prefer one over the other, it will be mentioned on their website. It says, I'm currently in year 13. Is it too late to do any entry test if needed? No. If you go to the university's website that you're thinking of applying to, it will actually give you a date of when they need the results for any entry tests, so like the SAT or ACT. Make sure you have a look if it's required or not. If it's not required, if you could write a good application and have good grades, I wouldn't worry about it. It's completely up to you though. But there's links on our website as well to when SAT tests and ACT tests can be taken in the UK in the following months or upcoming months. sorry, I'm just reading through some of the questions. Are you less likely to get in if you wait until normal application cycles? The answer is no. It depends, how many people apply through the early decision cycle, how many people apply through the normal application cycle, what sort of funding you're looking for, how you compare to the average student that they take. So this will vary university to university. That's why it's important to kind of get your research done and look for universities that you will fit in with your profile as well. Is it possible to do a 2+2 program from a UK university and transfer to a US one? So the straight answer is no. What you could do is go to a UK university and then transfer to a US university. However, you would have to contact the US university that you want to transfer to and find out what requirements you would need to fulfill in order to do so. Is taking the SAT, ACT preferable? If you mean which one universities prefer you to take, they don't mind which one you take. It's really up to you. The SAT and ACT, the exams are a bit different, so we suggest that you take a practice one of each in a time setting and see which one you actually do better on and which one you prefer to take. And if your university requires you to take it, take that one that you prefer. Do university offer accommodation or funding for accommodation? So it depends what kind of financial package they provide for students. Some will offer, so when you see the price for university, and let's just say it's $50,000, that includes accommodation fees as well. So if a university offers you 100% of the funding through financial aid or scholarship, it means it covers the accommodation costs as well. But once again, this will vary university to university. So you will have to get that information on each university's website. What is the best way to take the SAT or ACT in this country? There are different test, what's the word I'm looking for? Places that you could take the SAT or ACT around the UK. If you go on our website, there's links to the SAT website and the ACT website, and you could actually put where you live and it will give you the closest exam venue that you could take the SAT or the ACT in the UK. Very good question. How do schools see your personal attributes only by the essays? So they see it through the whole application process. So the application process is actually quite long. If you go through the Common App, there will be one question that is asked and it's sent to all the universities. And then each university will have supplementary essay questions as well that, they might ask you something personal or to write about an event that happened to you in your life and how it changed you. This is just an example. But they also look at what your referees say about you. And they also look at your extracurricular activities, and what they are and what you do in those extracurricular activities as well. So they look at the application as a whole and then they try to get your personal attributes through that. How significant is the influence of extracurricular involvement and personal attributes in the application evaluation process? So the extracurricular involvement is actually a very big part of the application process. They want to know what you do outside of the school. So it's not, if you might have the best grades in your school, you might have the best grades in the country, but if you haven't done anything outside of the classroom or any extracurriculars, your application will actually be lower than some other student that might not have as good grades as you, but actually has great extracurricular involvement. Because the application process is so holistic, they don't want just a student who does great on exams or tests that they have in class or doing their homework. They actually want someone who's a well-rounded individual. So it has great influence on the application process as a whole. How easy is it to transfer to a US university from a UK university? It depends on various factors, such as what course you're taking here in the UK, and also what university you want to transfer to in the US. The best advice I could give you is to actually contact US universities that you want to transfer to and see what requirements they have for transfer students from the UK, because this will vary university to university. And it might vary also based on the course that you're taking here in the UK. Says, I'm currently in year 10 and I'm looking to scout and learn more about what is necessary to get into US universities. I was wondering if this would provoke any problems, as I would not have an application to provide to any stalls. No, it will not. We have a lot of younger students attending US College Day. We have a lot of year 10s and even younger attending, so you don't have to have an application. We have students that are in year 11 and 12 who wouldn't apply till year 12 would apply next year as well. They come to the university. It just means that you're ahead of the game and you could do more research, especially after college day, if you meet universities, that you like. So you could research them and have time to do extra research and get all your ducks in a row. There's a question, what is the level of importance assigned to academic grades in the application process? My answer is it will depend on what university you apply to. That's the simple answer. So like I said, the application process is holistic as a whole, and grades are not just the only thing that they look at. Okay, there's a question. If you live in the UK, is it necessary or beneficial to take the US equivalents of national competition? For example, the American Maths competition. So no, you don't have to take anything that's equivalent to the US, as long as you have extracurriculars that you do outside of school. So if you do UK competitions, here with your school or in a club, they're going to look at that as well, so it doesn't have to be equivalent to what they have in the US. Sorry, I'm just looking through some of the questions. Says, will I be able to find out about which UK universities have partnerships with US universities at college day? Oh, that's a very good question. So some of the admission counselors that are there will know this. Others might not. Some universities might send alumni to represent their university. But for the most part, if you go on the US university website, you should be able to find out if they have a link with a UK university. But I would assume that a lot of the staff members that are representing their US university will know if they have a partnership here in the UK. Okay, so we have a question about extracurricular activities. For extracurricular activities, would it be better to have more of a social application in it, such as volunteer work, or would they appreciate competing at a high level in sport? Oh, that is a very good question. They look at both. If you're a high level athlete, your time is obviously being taken up by your sport, with training, with competitions, etc. So if you are a high level athlete, they understand that you might not have time to do something like volunteer work outside of school, because all your time is being taken up by your sport. And on the other hand, if you're not a high level athlete and you're doing great volunteer work, they look at that as well. So it's not like they compare one student that's a high level athlete to another student that does volunteer work. But it's important to list things, like playing high level sport or volunteering in the application process. And just keep in mind that in the extracurricular part of the application process, you list the extracurricular activity, and then it actually gives you space to kind of explain what the activity is, or what you do in that activity, or how much time it takes as well. So if you're a high-level athlete, you know, that trains 5 days a week and then competes on the 6th day, you could say that, and how many hours you train, as well as they will look at that. So we have a question: how well viewed is large musical commitment or grades? If you mean that you're part of a musical group, as an extracurricular activity, or like a musical club, then they will look at that as well. Or like a school orchestra, they will definitely look at that as part of the extracurricular activity. Or if you mean that as a A-level, like music for A-level or GCSEs, and you mean grade in that, they look at all your grades in both GCSEs and A-levels or equivalent. Okay, we have a question: can I provide more guidance on how to best introduce yourself to universities on the day? So my advice would be to have a look at what universities are attending College Day, and then pick a few. You know, there's over 120 that are attending, so we're not expecting you to look at 120 different universities, but maybe pick a handful and kind of go on their website, see what they're about, see if there's anything about the university that interests you, and then have a look at where they are located. Maybe go to those, I would say maybe pick 5 to 10 universities from the list, do that research, and then go to them. And I would start with introducing yourself and kind of saying, you know, where you're from, what A-levels you're taking, if you're taking A-levels, what A-levels you're taking currently, or maybe you're younger, what GCSEs you're taking, what school you go to, and what you're interested in. And then maybe have a question or two to ask the university. You could do something generic like, what's the student life on campus? What does the student life on campus looks like at your university? So that's kind of my advice. Just start with something, and that will get the conversation flowing. But make sure it's you that's starting that conversation and not your parent. That's my advice. Okay, I have another good question. By the time we apply, we still wouldn't have done our A-levels. So do we put down our UCAS predicted grades? Yes, so on the application itself, because you will not have your A-level results yet, you will put down your predicted A-level grades, and then once your A-level grades come in, those will be sent to the universities in the US. Okay, which states in the US are the majority of international students settling in for university? And could this be due to popularity or just the opportunity that the university presents? Very good question. This will differ. I'm not even going to say state to state. I'm going to say university to university. So there are a lot of universities that have great financial aid for international students, and they also have great support system for international students. So you'll see they've been doing it, you know, for a lot longer than some other universities in regards to recruiting international students. So they'll be, I guess, more known for taking international students because they have been doing it for longer. However, if you look at our College Day, every university that attends our College Day is interested in recruiting international students, especially students from the UK. So this will vary state by state and university to university. Sorry, there's lots of questions. Are offers unconditional? So no, it doesn't work the same way as here in the UK. You get accepted to the university. You still have to make the grades. Let's just say you're predicted all A stars, but you actually end up getting, I don't know, A star, A, and a B. Most likely the university will not resend their offer, but they might ask you like what happened, and you have a chance to explain this, and also your teacher has a chance to explain this. But there's no such thing as a conditional or unconditional offer. It's just you've been accepted. They might waitlist you, which means that they will wait for all the other students to get accepted and then make a decision on your application. But unconditional or conditional offer does not exist in the US. Okay, do your GCSEs define what you can take in the US as a course, as the courses are interdisciplinary? No. So it doesn't matter what GCSEs you take, and it doesn't matter what A-levels you take. In the US, because you apply to the university as a whole, you're allowed to take different classes, and then different universities will give you a timeline of when you have to decide your major. So some universities, it might be at the end of the first semester. Some universities, you might have to decide at the end of your first year. And some universities, they give you as long as 2 years to take various classes and then decide your major. In the US, you could also major and minor, or you could double major, or you could major and double minor if you're very ambitious. So you could take a variety of different classes, but what you take in your GCSEs does not have an impact on what you have to take in the US. Is there a leverage or advantage by taking the IB compared to A-level or vice versa? So the answer is no. There isn't a leverage. It's basically how you do your application and how you answer those essay questions, what your results are for the IB or your A-levels, what your references are like from your teachers or your schools. But there isn't like an advantage of taking the IB compared to A-levels. So the universities look at both, or students with both. Sorry, just looking. There's a couple more questions. Oh, very good question. Is it okay to apply to US and UK universities? The answer is yes. You're allowed to, so your application to UK universities has no impact on you applying to US universities or vice versa. The timelines are quite similar. So usually UK universities, the applications are due in January, if I'm correct. It's the same for most US universities. And I believe the decisions are released at the same time as well for both US and UK universities. But just because you get to a US university doesn't mean you can't go to a UK university. And just because you get into a UK university and you choose to US university, there's not really any impact or implications on that. So there's a question about what category does architecture come under? Social sciences on STEM. Off the top of my head, I'm not 100% sure. I think it will also depend on what type of architecture you want to take. The best place to find this is each university website, as I'm not 100% sure. Okay, so I'm currently in year 13. So when during the year would the university let you know if you have been giving an offer or not? So if you're in year 13, you will apply between now and January. And then you will receive your offer in usually like mid-May. That's when universities give students their offers if they've been accepted or not. So it's usually May. Okay, I have one last question. And what is the difficulty intensity gap like between A-level and university compared to the UK? Ooh, okay, so this is a very good question. Two-part answer. The first answer is it depends what university you go to in the US. Obviously, your MITs, your Stanfords, your Harvards, it's going to be quite intense. It also depends on how the university is run, whether they do semesters or trimesters. So, for example, Dartmouth University, they do 10 block, I guess it's not even trimesters, it's quarters. So they have their curriculum is very intense. You have 10 weeks, and then you have exams. Then you have a break, you have another 10 weeks, you have exams, another break, 10 weeks, exams, and another break, 10 weeks, exams. So it's very intense. Other universities will have semesters. So, you'll start late August, early September, you go till Christmas, you will then have exams, then you have a break, and then you will start like mid-January, have 4 months of classes, and then have exams. So the intensity will vary based on that. And also it will vary based on which university you go to. If it's a highly selective university, most likely the intensity is going to be quite high. How does that compare to the UK? Same, if you go to Cambridge, it's going to be way more intense than if you go to like a smaller university. I'm not going to name any because I don't want to offend anyone. So it will just vary. It will also vary depending on what classes you're taking. I don't know, an example would be something like, I don't know, English literature might be less intense than, for example, if you're taking something like, I don't know, some kind of engineering course. Once again, I don't want to offend anyone, just trying to give an example. Okay, it looks like these are all the questions that we have. If you do have any more questions, you could always email us. So I'm going to put our email in the chat really quickly. So that's our email address. You could email us there. Oh, we have one more question, so I'm going to answer that quickly. It's, I want to study medicine in the US, but I have to take pre-med first. How many years does pre-med take? So the way medicine and law work in the US is that you have to take a 4-year bachelor's course anyways. So usually for medicine, it has to be something science-based. So like biology, anatomy, things like that. So you have to take that for 4 years, which means you have to do a bachelor's. Then you have to take an exam to see if you get into medical school. Just keep in mind that there's very little to no financial aid or scholarships for international students for medicine in the US. And because if you finish medicine in the US, it doesn't actually give you the right to work there, and your qualification might not be relevant to the country that you live in. So we recommend that if you do want to study medicine in the US, you actually do it at postgraduate level, or do it in the country that you're from. So in this case, in the UK. Okay, so those are all the questions for tonight. I put the email in the chat if you guys do have any questions, whilst you're applying to the US or throughout the process, please feel free to get in touch with us. If you haven't yet registered for College Day, please do so. The information's on our website. It's free to attend. If you're attending with your parents or friends, please make sure that everyone in your party actually registers for the same time slot. So everyone needs to register to get into the event. And yeah, I hope to see all of you there next week or next weekend. And like I mentioned before, the webinar will be available on our website early next week, and it will also be emailed to everyone that has registered for this webinar. So thank you very much. I hope everyone has a good evening, and hopefully see you at the College Day event. Bye.